In example 5, we're going to talk about the phase shift of a sine and cosine function. The phase shift is the difference between the horizontal position of a function and that of an otherwise similar sine function. So for your sine and your cosine function where b is not equal to 0, the phase shift is negative, or the opposite of c, over the absolute value of b. So negative c over b. And if you take a look at the model, it will show you the phase shift, where instead of our graph starting here, it's shifted over to the right here. Now below, we want to state the amplitude, the period, and the phase shift of g of x equals the sine of 3x minus pi over 2, and describe how it is related to the regular sine of x. First thing we're going to start to do is start labeling our a, our b, and our c value. So in this problem, our a value is the amplitude. Remember, a is the number that's coming out in front. A here is just 1. Our b value is going to be the number in front of the x on the inside here, which is 3. And our c value is this number that's being added to the x on the inside of our function, which is a negative pi over 2. Now what we want to do is we want to state the amplitude, the period, and the phase shift. So if we start with the amplitude, remember the amplitude is the absolute value of a. And since a is just 1, the absolute value of 1 is 1. Our period is 2 pi divided by the absolute value of b. So we'd have 2 pi divided by 3, which is the same thing as taking 2 pi and multiplying by 1/3, giving us a period of 2 pi over 3. And then finally we want our phase shift. And our phase shift from above is the opposite of c. So since c is negative pi over 2, the opposite would be positive pi over 2. And we're dividing that by b, so by 3. So basically we're taking pi over 2 and multiplying it by 1/3, which gives us a phase shift of pi over 6. Now what we need to do is we need to describe how these two are related to the sine of x. So first of all, the amplitude, since the amplitude is just 1, we have not stretched it or compressed it vertically. Our period is 2 pi over 3, and because our b value is 3, that tells us that we have compressed horizontally by a factor of 3. And then our phase shift, since phase shift is positive, if this ends up being a positive number, we're moving to the right. And if it is a negative number, we're moving to the left. So this tells us that we have shifted our function to the right by pi over 6. Next, I'd like you to do the try this. So take a look at the try this, so you can go ahead, pause it now, and unpause it when you are ready to check your answer. If you did the try this correctly, you should have gotten an amplitude of 4. Remember, it's a positive 4. A period of 2 pi over 3. A phase shift of negative pi over 12. And then listing down the relationship of how they are related, you should have said it moved to the left by pi over 12. It reflected over the x-axis. Stretched vertically by a factor of 4. And finally, it was compressed horizontally by a factor of 3. If you have questions, let me know.